Hi, today's video is not about mental health in any direct sense, but then again, neither have my last few videos. But I do think today's video is about mental health in a different indirect sense than my other videos have been recently. One of the biggest challenges to stable, sustainable, healthy minds is uncertainty. And we all find ourselves in situations where we ask ourselves questions and want to know the answers and can't immediately get the answers. But even in the brief time that I've been making these videos, I've actually become a better researcher because I'm making these claims to YouTube and I want to at least be mostly correct about what I'm saying. I'm certainly trying. So a question struck me the other day, and I thought, I want to look this up and know the answer and not just assume or believe. I found myself wondering, are kids dying from COVID? I mean, I felt like I had read before that they were, but I didn't know where, and I just wanted to know, are kids dying from COVID or not? Right now, it's August 11th. And schools have already opened back up in the US, but we're about to have all of the schools open up and not just a few. We're about to have so many cities in the US and smaller townish cities in the US that happen to have a college. We're about to have these places flooded with people. College students are going and doing some online classes, hybrid online classes, and in-person classes. I understand schools doing what they're doing. I'm not even criticizing that. That's for a whole nother video if I want to do that. What I'm saying is these complicated decisions that people have had to make are resulting in consequences and have been. And I wanted to know, is one of those consequences that kids are dying? I know that kids already die. You know, there's probably someone out there thinking, but don't kids already die? Like, why make a video about this? And it's like, yeah, kids already die, but like this is a new threat. It's called the novel coronavirus for a reason. It's novel. It's new. It's never existed. There's no antibodies that we produce naturally. Like, it's this new threat. Like, imagine if they made a movie and like there were human societies and all the kids were being attacked, or all the people were being attacked and the kids were, you know, having to deal with it too from some monster. We would say like, fight that monster, like do whatever you can. Like, and then what if someone was like, well, what if it affects our economy to fight the monster? It's going to affect our economy. How are people supposed to work when they have to take care of their kids and their kids aren't going to school? Like, that is an extremely fundamental question. It takes the government literally subsidizing individuals. That's what this whole pandemic has required, is universal basic income. There's no other way to put it. This pandemic has necessitated that we support people who can't work, and so we've had to do that. And I know we can't just print money and get out of things, but we do already print money and we just need to spend it differently. Money's fake and we need to take care of human lives. They're more important, and kids' lives are just so important because they're not responsible and they can't take care of themselves. And so I wanted to find out, what is going on? Are kids okay? Are they surviving? I know they have great immune systems. If you're like me, you've seen reports over the last few months that kids have died from suspected coronavirus and coronavirus-related diseases, and you've probably wondered, like, what does that mean exactly? Is it coronavirus or not? Because how is it related or suspected? Why don't they know? Well, when I looked into it, it didn't really take that long. It only took 10-15 minutes to really figure out what was going on. And it's something called multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children, or MIS-C. Very, very often these kids have coronavirus. The CDC says many children with MIS-C have the virus that causes COVID-19 or had been around someone with COVID-19. It doesn't affect what you might consider many kids. As of July 29th, a total of 570 U.S. MIS-C patients who met the case definition had been reported to the CDC. So that's, on the one hand, only 570 kids, and on the other hand, that's 570 kids. 570 kids who have dealt with inflammation to any one of their major organs, their heart, lung, kidneys, skin, eyes, their gastrointestinal tract. Of these kids, the average time spent in the hospital was 6 days, which, just so you know, is pretty traumatic for a kid to spend 6 days in the hospital. And I don't even know what these hospitals' rules were for how often the family could visit or whatnot during this pandemic. 364 kids, or 63%, required care in an intensive care unit. So that's 364 kids in the ICU, and 10 kids died. That's 1.8% of the kids who have been reported with MIS-C. 10 kids died. Doctors acknowledge the clear connection between COVID and the onslaught of the systemic inflammatory condition in children. The Mayo Clinic also reports about the connections between COVID-19 and this multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children. They, for some reason, say very few children have died, even though I would argue that's subjective. How many children are we okay with dying? Imagine if one of those kids was yours or the kid of someone you love. They're all tragedies, and they all are absolutely unacceptable. And part of me maintaining my own mental health is getting outraged by things that I feel justified at being outraged about. I want to make sure we do everything we can to prevent kids from dying. They didn't choose to be born. They just got thrust into this world. They're doing their best. They don't deserve to get this multisystem inflammatory syndrome because they were exposed to coronavirus, because their parents had to work, because the government didn't want to pay the parents to stay home, and now they have coronavirus. You might have heard about MIS-C because there was another big report released by the CDC just this past week. A fourth child has died in Louisiana from COVID, and there are 11,000 children in Louisiana to have known infections of COVID. So you can say that's a very small percentage, but I would say I'm scared for all those other kids and all the kids who it's not reported that they have COVID. And COVID cases are rising in children in the U.S., rising really fast. And I would argue we should expect them to keep rising in the short term as schools start to open up. And we need to be really careful, and we need to all act with each other's safety and our own safety in mind. And we need to remember what a government is for. It's for taking care of people. As the rate of children with COVID goes up, so does the rate of children making up the hospitalizations related to COVID. It's gone up significantly recently. And as of July 30th, 86 children had died from the disease in 44 states and New York City. That's 86 children now who have died from COVID. Back on April 16th, kids only made up 2% of COVID cases, and on July 30th, they made up 8.8% of cases. I chose to include this photograph of a specific child that someone has posted on Twitter, and I hope it's not attention that person doesn't want. I just assumed that because they posted it on Twitter, they would be okay with it being shared. And they're clearly sharing this information because they want people to know, and I really am so grateful for them sharing this, and I hope their son is okay. I can only imagine what it's like to be 6 and to be in the hospital having no idea, being so uncertain, and to be that son's parent, it must be extremely difficult. And I give them so much credit for sharing with the world a photograph of their son in the hospital, because that photo can help a lot of people. Be careful. I want journalists and newspapers and media outlets to be showing more photographs of people in the hospitals. I don't know why we're not seeing it. If it was the Vietnam War, we'd be seeing more photographs of what was going on. I want to see, not because I have some weird need to see people suffer, but I think we all need to see people suffer, because apparently it's gotten a little too abstract and tough for some of us to comprehend. And I really wish people didn't have to know someone who had COVID or died from COVID to understand it's a real thing. That is extremely baseline intelligence, to be able to comprehend things outside of your immediate view. But people don't have object permanence or something, or don't believe that things exist outside of their immediate field of view. But here's a kid suffering with COVID, and of course, he's not one of the 86 kids that have already died from COVID-related disease. So this has been a very dark video, but it's mental health related because mental health isn't about being positive and happy all the time. Mental health is about being able to handle the world and deal with life on life's terms. I wish everybody the best, and I really thank you for watching this. I wanted to put this out there as soon as possible. I felt like it was timely. People need to be aware of the threats that we're facing. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch.